Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone present over here. I'm Namrata Hari from SRMIC Ramapuram. Hack the Mountains 2.0 welcomes you all for the ninth session of Qubits. It is really nice to see that all of you have taken off your time to attend this session and learn something new. Today, l- um, like we have like we are very glad to have this enthusiasm as we had for the previous session. Now let's continue having the same spirit for this session and for the upcoming events as well. Today we welcome you to another highly engaging session on the topic building web applications with Azure App Service Web with Tiago Costa. Tiago Costa is an Azure cloud architect and analyst. On top of this, he is an international speaker and trainer. This makes him more than qualified to help us see you a whole new dimension of web application development. Hack the Mountains team welcomes you, Mr. Tiago. Over to you. The stage is all yours to rock.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that you can hear me loud and clear. So thank you for that very kind presentation about myself. Today we're going to talk about how we can build web applications using Azure App Service. My name is Tiago. You have here my Twitter handler, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, please do. I always like to start my presentations with kind of an icebreaker. And I always like to say this: if coffee in the morning, just doesn't work for you anymore, so if you really have, a hard time waking up in the morning, etc., try this. Try to delete, a production resource group on Azure, because if you delete something that is over there that is in production, believe me that you're really going to wake up and you really don't need any coffee. So this just happened some time ago with one of my customers, and let's just say that my customer more than I am, but to be honest, but it was really waking up. Just really a quick way to to get up of bed. So this is my short presentation. Basically, I'm a cloud architect and advisor for basically for Azure. I'm also a trainer, so I usually help people also to get qualified in Azure, author of some content and some books and some LinkedIn courses. And I usually speak in community events like here today and other conferences up to Microsoft Ignite. I'm an MVP for Azure, MCT, regional lead, etc. And you have all my contacts here on the bottom. So that's my YouTube channel where I'm putting some content. That's my email, my website, and my Twitter handler, Tiago Costa PT. So each way, if for some reason you want to follow me to get some more content after this, please do reach out, engage. Always happy for that. What is the agenda for today? So the agenda for today, it will be very, very straightforward. We're going to talk about Azure Web Apps and the app service where we're going to run them. But first, we need to talk about what is Azure today. Just give kind of a quick overview. We're not going to lose that much time on that, but it's good to introduce the topic, etc. And then we're going to talk about what is the Azure App Service, some of the plans that we have. We're going to talk about deployment slots, deploying web applications, and some other useful Azure services. Because to be totally honest, 1 hour and what I bring here, it is definitely just not enough. We could be here 2 days, talking about the topic here, because we have so much to talk about this. But let's talk about what is Azure today. So Azure today is considered to be the second largest cloud provider. We have 68 regions worldwide, and I just add the plus there because Microsoft is constantly adding and announcing new regions. And this week they just announced a new region in Malaysia, and I'm sure, I don't know, in some weeks they're going to announce another one in some other place in the world, and a month later some other regions. And it's quite hard, to be honest, to keep up with the scale that we have today, and with a massive number of regions that we're talking about. But we're also talking about a bunch of my fiber, a bunch of edge sites. Those edge sites, usually they are small, okay, well, comparing to their big regions, of course, but smaller sites where it's Azure's too, but they don't have all the services available there. Usually they have like CDN services and basically edge, okay, services. And they are spread all around the world. And we're talking about 170, probably 80 already, locations that are across all the major cities in the world. So I would just like to say that, well, you don't have an Azure region in your country, but probably you have an edge site. So Azure is usually closer to you than what you think. And then with all of this, there is a private network that is basically, we're talking about 1.6 miles of fiber. We're talking about 200,000 of fiber C cables. And that's a private network. So what I want to say, look, that's not the internet. It's just a private network that Microsoft had put in place to work with Azure. And we can connect to that network, which is, again, it's not the internet, okay, but we can connect to that network. And we can go and get speeds up to 100 gigabits. So basically, I can shift my old data center into Azure and still have a connection from my headquarters into my servers and all the stuff at that speed. Can go up to that speed. Of course, only very large customers will need something like that. But hey, yeah, that is a possibility to do that. And then we talk about regions, but what is a region? It's a set of data centers. It's not just one data center. Don't confuse regions with data centers, because a region is a set of data centers. And there is a commitment. All those data centers that correspond to one region, they are all in the same country. And that's important for legal reasons. Usually, sometimes we have legal issues when it comes to, data residency concerns and things like that. So it is important, okay, to make sure that this happens. And then I bring you a map here. It's not going to lose that much time in here, but as you can see, there is regions all around the world. Some regions, we could still do a better job over there. For sure, I think Microsoft could build some more in some regions. We look at the map and we easily identify where we don't have bullets there. Okay, that would be great to have some more in those areas. But it's a work in progress. Maybe in a few years, the conversation will be different. And then I always like to bring something. It's why Azure? Why should you consider working with Azure? Why should you consider to move your company workloads into Azure? So all of that. Well, first of all, there is a huge demand from customers all around the world, okay, to work with Azure. It is literally massive, the need for people that are qualified in Azure in order to work with Azure. And we literally don't have enough qualified people because there aren't. They're all busy. So in terms of business opportunity, in terms of employment opportunity, sure, it's an area that today you're going to have a huge success. Then in some geos, it is still kind of starting this all cloud approach. There are many reasons for this. I'm not going to bother you today with those reasons. That's more a business-oriented conversation. But in like Europe, United States, etc., there is already a great motion on this. Most companies today, when they're building a new system, they are like, yeah, how can I do this in Azure? They are not considering, hey, look, yeah, sure. Should I go to Azure or to the cloud in general or not? No, most of them, they see, yeah, in terms of legal requirements, we can put this in the cloud. Bam, they just go for the cloud. Then it's fun to work with. I have to confess, I have tons of fun doing my job, and my customers still pay for me from and for my work and all of that. I only hope that they are not watching this, because then I will have a very bad Monday morning. But it's true. It's I have tons of fun, because I really like to work with this, and it's super interesting, and it's super cool to be able just here in my home office. Okay, by the way, this is my home office, and I can just click a button, run a script, and I'm just deploying thousands and thousands of servers all around the world. It's super powerful, and it's pretty cool. Also, for the pay for what you use, and that's something that I always wanted, is a system that, look, I have the need, I deploy, I use. I don't have the need, I just kill the servers, and I'm not paying anymore. And if you see, there's a lot of businesses that can make use of this. If you have usage on your work, on a workload that you have, that it's no one is using, and then that day of the week, bam, loads of people are using that. That's something, okay, that's basically a massive opportunity for something like this. I was just going to tell you, like, I'm a huge Formula One fan, and I usually go and around the circuits around the world with them, and I go watch the circuits and all of that. Is that crazy? Okay, but right now, basically, I watch at home, of course, with all the pandemic that we are suffering. And they have a service that you can just pay, and then they stream to you that in full HD quality, which is like, wow, great quality. If you just have a good internet, it is pretty cool, okay, what you can get from there. And I'm like, great. And now I started to see how the hell they have this, created. And then they have, not in Azure, they have another cloud provider, but the concept is the same. Is they shared even some statistics and everything. It's like almost no one is using the streaming service. And then when there is a race, right, that really spikes a lot. They had to have, imagine if they didn't have a cloud service, that capacity in servers, in bandwidth, and all of that. But they don't have, because they have a streaming service. They just ingest the signal there, and then it's basically that service that needs to be capable of handling all of that. So they just don't need to have all that capacity there for 18 weekends a year, because it's like 18, 19, 20 races, something around that. No, it's worthless to have such compute capacity there. And this is when we used to do this, because we used to do this first bit here, which was on-prem. So I usually had everything on premises. I had to take care of everything. I'm not going to bother you that much with this slide. In cloud computing, I have three big modules, which is infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. And a very quick difference on this, and again, we could be here talking on this for like a day, okay? But just a big, small difference on this is that infrastructure as a service, you offload stuff like virtualization, servers, storage, and networking into the cloud provider. That means what? The physical aspects of things. You no longer need to take care of your servers. You no longer need to, oh my God, I need, to have a spare in here in case of one of the servers break down, or have spare parts like hard drives, memory modules, and things like that, because that, yeah, this is what usually, breaks first on these servers. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Everything is taken care by the cloud provider, but you're still responsible for what? I have a virtual machine. I'm still responsible for taking that virtual machine and update the VM. It's a Linux server, a Windows server, whatever. Okay, and you still are responsible for that. And then, but we can move into the platform as a service stuff where you don't have to do that part. So there is no operating system, there is no virtual machine to manage. So you really don't need to have all that technical depth that you need for doing those tasks. You just need to focus on your application. And this is great because usually developers, for example, they are not so good in doing that at IT admin stuff, right? Because look, let's be honest, it's really hard to know everything. Or and even sometimes when you know a little bit of everything, you don't have a deep knowledge in each one of the areas. You are more a generalist, which is still nice. Okay, we still need those profiles, but I think it's more interesting, to really be really good in just something. Okay, and then we even have software as a service, like services like Office 365. That, yeah, I just pay for the service and I get access and I can just use the service. I don't need, to install anything and code, and no, just use. Okay, so virtual machines, the web app service that we're going to talk about here today, and a great example here will be like Office 365 and things like that. But let's start. We are here to talk about the app service. Okay, the app service clearly fits on that last bit there, on that app service platform as a service. And what is the app service? So the app service is a scalable platform that we have on Azure to host web applications and REST services. We're not going to build them here. We build them in .NET Core, Python, okay, Java, PHP, and all of those are going to be supported in here. So we can host them in the app service. In the back, that app service can be made of Windows or Linux servers. You have the choice. Because if you're doing, like, imagine .NET Core, you test it and oh, look, my application runs better on Windows or Linux. If it's Java, PHP, Python, or whatever, that, hey, look, this runs better on this operating system. So it's up to you to choose the OS that you want. But to be totally honest with you, you're not going to touch that much on that. So it can be kind of whatever you want. And then the great thing about Microsoft and around Azure is integrations. There is integrations for literally everything. And if there still doesn't exist today, they're going to work on it and they're going to launch it in the near future. But today, I have integrations from this service with Visual Studio Code, which is free, full Visual Studio, which we have a version called Community Edition that is also free. Then we have the Professional and the Enterprise that, well, they are paid, but to be honest, most of the things that most people will do, that community will work perfectly. But even with Eclipse, which is not a Microsoft product, with Azure DevOps and GitHub, so all of those will have, will have this ready. And I support like custom domains. So if you want to talk about like, hey, what are the upselling points that I have for the app service, right? Because look, that's something that, yeah, we always need to talk about. It's why I'm going to use this. I'm not going to bother again with all the details here, but I have integration with Azure AD. Azure AD is an identity platform that we have in the Microsoft Azure world. So yeah, it is massively important to have that. I have hybrid support, global data footprint, because I had a customer, for example, that they were having huge problems in latency because their servers were in their data center in near Amsterdam, and they had customers, a lot of customers in the US, loads of customers in Africa, well, some in Africa, some in Europe. They were not that big in Europe, but then their biggest market that corresponds to like 60% of their sales was around Asia. And people complained a lot of the latency that they had. Well, they complained about the speed, but then they investigated and it was the latency. And they were right. because the thing was slow, etc., etc. And because the stuff was in Amsterdam, and they had very fancy hardware, etc. But with this, we were able to deploy some workloads in the US, some workloads in Europe, some workloads in South Africa, and we used 2 regions in Asia to kind of distribute the application all around these places. And of course, look, people now are super happy with the service because the latency now, it's a fraction of what we had. And then we have built-in scalability with this that we're going to talk about too today. And we have support for a bunch of languages, etc. So we need to start by creating what we call an app service plan. The app service plan will define the region where the compute will run, number of instances that you have, the size of those instances, and of course the pricing tier. And look, if you want to see a table of this, this is a table that kind of resumes this. You can then kind of check this out a little bit later, but this is basically some of the cool features that I see. Those first 2 here, the free and the share it, they run on shared hardware. Okay, so you don't have like, oh, this is a virtual machine in the back that's just for me. You don't. For this, you need to go to basic, standard, or premium, or even the isolated one where you have one machine, but you don't need to manage the machine. And don't worry about that, okay? But that's what you have there. And of course, then you have your auto scaling, which is a feature that I love, which is be able to create rules to make this grow to 1 or more instances and things like that. So it's pretty awesome, the stuff that I can do with this. Okay. So, like I was saying, we have here, okay, also a very important part, which is this service comes in 3 flavors. Okay, which is the Azure App Service, what we're going to talk about here, which is basically from the free to the premium. Okay. And then we have another one, which is a special one, which is called Azure Service Endpoints. This runs a little bit different, okay, and allows to have features, and also allows me, if we go back one more time, go to up to 100 instances. That means 100 virtual machines in the back supporting, okay, supporting this. So it is pretty cool. Okay, what we can have with this. And then the last one is running this on Azure Stack. So Azure Stack Hub is basically, in a very short way, is basically kind of a way that we have to run Azure, okay, to run Azure on-prem, so on your data center. And this also is one of the services that is available there. And I can do auto scaling on this. I can define scaling rules based on CPU, for example. I have imagined, oh, we have a CPU performance, and if my CPU is higher than 80%, I want another instance. But if it's lower, you don't have demand, for example, you also probably want to have what? Probably you want to have less, okay, less machines. You don't need to have so many machines there. Okay, cool. So basically, this is it. So let's just do here a first demo, okay, where we're going to create here an app, okay, an app service plan. And if we do this, if we do portal.azure.com, okay, and by the way, I have 0 stuff done. We're going to do all here, all live. There's no videos, there's no net, no safety net, nothing. So let's hope that this works, okay? So I'm going here. I'm just going to create, first of all, I'm just going to create a resource group, okay? And let's just put this in this training subscription that I have here. And app service demos, okay? And in my case, I'm just going to choose West Europe, okay? Because, look, it's a place where I'm near to, so it's kind of because of that I'm going to do that. And now that I have done this, okay, I can say, hey, I want to create an app service plan. So we just search this. Ooh, app service plan. Yeah, create. And I need to choose here the resource group that we created before. And I'll just say AZ Demo App Service Plan. Okay, so something like this. And now I have the choice here. Hey, what you want? A Linux, a Windows? Let's just go for Windows, for example. And let's just go here for West Europe, and we should be good. Now I need to choose the size. So if I click there where it says change size, you see, if I go back here to dev and test, I have this one is the free, this one is the share it, and that one is the basic. So I have the green ones here are the basic ones. What are the basic ones? Well, this is the B1. Feature wise, you have B2 and the B3 are the same. There are no differences. The only difference in terms of this is the capacity. So if we zoom a little bit, you can see here we're talking about one CPU and 175 gigs of RAM. And in this one, we have two CPUs, 3.5 gigs of RAM, and the last one, 427 gigs of RAM. Okay, so basically more compute capacity. And that's kind of the same also in the production one. I'll go for a pre-1 V2, which is a premium V2. And if you zoom this, you can see this is like two CPUs. This will be a 4. This will be an 8. Okay, and so on. Okay, so that's the idea. But I'm going for this one. And in here, okay, let's just drag this into this other screen here. I'll just click apply. Okay, and that's it. And now review and create, and I'll just say create. And now this will create the app service plan. In this app service plan, I can add multiple web applications, because this app service plan is kind of the infrastructure where now I'm going to deploy my app service plans. And let's just click here, go to resource, and this is what we have. Okay, it's created. So now let's just see here 2-3 more slides, and then we'll do another demo, which is basically about the web apps. Okay, let's create a web app, and then I can show you something. We have Azure Web Apps. They can be web apps, API apps, a bunch of stuff. Can support like .NET, .NET Core, all of that. I also support app settings, and I can just go there and tweak the app settings of an application. So the app settings that the developer put on the code, I can override with these app settings in here in the portal. I can also use PowerShell or Azure CLI. And then we have here some best practices around security. I feel that, look, security today, it is like massively important to talk about. You should enable authentication if it's not a public website, and we can have this. And we have this integrated with like third-party providers like Azure AD, Microsoft accounts, Facebook, Google, Twitter accounts. If you have secrets, those secrets should not be stored in the Azure Web App. It should be stored in something like the Azure Key Vault, which is another service to take care of secrets. Secrets will be encrypted, and we can guarantee that, yeah, no one gets access to this. And something very simple, which is, hey, just put your website to work with HTTPS. Don't leave it to work in HTTP, and we're going to do that. But let's do a small demo on creating an Azure Web App. So getting back here again to this screen, and no, we don't want this. We want this. Okay, there you go. So I'm just going here, just going to create a resource. I'm going to type, okay, web app. And if you see here, oh, web app, yeah, from Microsoft, yeah, that's the one that I want. I will click create. I'll just select here AZ App Service Demos. And now I need to create here a name for this. And I'll just say, hey, let's create something called like AZ Demo App Serve. Okay. And what is the runtime stack of this? And you see here, hey, this supports .NET 5, .NET 3.1, the old ASP.NET, Java, Node, PHP, Python, Ruby. So see, all the ones that I told you about it. I'll go for .NET 3.1. I'll go for Windows. Hey, I will just say, I want to deploy this in West Europe. And out of nowhere, oh, Windows plan. So this is the Windows plan. See this AZ demo ASP that we just created. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it's right over there that I want to do that. Around monitoring, I'm just going to say no because it's not the purpose of our demo here today. And I'll click create. It's not the purpose of our demo here today. So I'll just say no. But as you can imagine, doing monitoring on an application is quite important. So yeah, you should have that turned on, and you should configure monitorization on your application. If you have a problem with your app, okay, you definitely want to be the one that knows this before, basically before your customers start to complain that, hey, look, your web application is not working. It's really bad when that happens, okay? So let's go to the resource. So this is my web app. If I click here, it says browse, okay? You can see this is the landing page for Azure Web Apps, and you're like, oh yeah, great. We had deployed something, but yeah. What is that? That's like, yeah, an app. Great. Happy days, right? But the thing is, hey, look, it's really easy now for me just to take this, okay, and be able now to deploy something into this. And let's just fire up here, okay, Visual Studio, and not this one. I just click on the wrong button, okay? Let me close this. So let me fire up Visual Studio 2019, and I could just do something else, okay? But I'll just going to do for this, I'll just say create a new project, okay? And when I say create a new project, I'm going to be able to select here, let me just scroll this down so that you guys can really focus on this. I'll just say, ASP.NET Core, I'll just say what? I'll just say this one here. ASP Core .NET Web App. I'll just say, yeah, whatever. I need to choose a location for this. And I'll just call this AZ Demo App Serve. Okay. And we just press next. Now, .NET 3.1. I want the HTTPS on this. Click create. And now this is going to create kind of one of the sample databases that we have here. So I'll just you went to this other screen. I'll just go with this one, okay? But if we go to pages, okay, and I go to where it says index, let me just, okay, let's just say here, Active Mountains, okay? Welcome to Active Mountains. And let's just put like this. And look, I could build here an app, but it's not the purpose today. So I'm not going to create like a fancy UI. I'm just going with this one, which is awesome. Now, if I right-click here at the project, okay, and I will choose the option that says publish, this screen comes up. And now it's like, hey, where do you want to publish? And like you say, I can publish to Azure. I can publish to a Docker container registry, to a folder, an FTP server, like whatever. I'll just go for Azure. And now on Azure, again, I have a bunch of other options like, oh, yeah, sure, but it's an app service in Windows or Linux, or is a container, or is a registry, or even a virtual machine. Look, the first one is the one, that we want. So I'm just going to say next. And now this is logging my user into Azure. Okay, so it should take a while, but it should refresh automatically. So we just need to wait. There you go. This is my AZ App Services demo that we have here. Okay, so it's here with the icon of a folder, but it's my resource group that I have. So if I open this one, I have there AZ Demo App Server, and I'll just finish. When I did this, I downloaded the publishing profile. When I click now publish here, now this is going to publish, okay, my application. So Visual Studio now is basically building locally on my machine, okay, here, my app, and it's going to take care of the publishing of this application into Azure. It's basically what it's doing. And it succeeded. We can see here on the output window all the steps. I know it's probably a little bit small for you guys, but yeah, Visual Studio is not that good to zoom things in. And there you go. Okay, and now this is opening my web application, and I can even close this. And if I refresh this, this is the one that that opened before. You see there, hey, welcome to Act the Mountains. And look, as you can see, this only has like a privacy screen here, and it's not a very fancy web application, but we get to understand, yeah, great, that's pretty cool what I can do, because now it's just building the app itself. You can build a Python or Ruby or whatever, and it will be deployed into Azure. And you're like, oh yeah, that seems to be pretty easy, okay, to deploy, and very, very very easy to fix. So yeah, sure it is. But now let's do one more thing. Let's do here some slides. I have like one slide here. Let's just do this. And I want to have a custom domain. I don't like that .azurewebsites.net. It's not professional. We want to have our own custom domain. And look, yes, okay, we can have something like that. So let's just do a demo, okay, now. And let's add exactly that custom domain. So how can I add, okay, custom domains into this? If we scroll down here, we can see settings, and then custom domains might be here. And we can see here, and you're like, oh, add a custom domain. Oh, great. So I own a custom domains that I use for demos. Let's leave this in here. Let's go for another tab that I open for the Azure portal. And I will just show you here. This is my domain. I really own this domain, azcontoso.com. And I have a DNS zone for that domain in here. And I just need to clean up this, okay, because, sorry about this, because I did a few demos the other day, I think it was yesterday, and I forgot to delete them in here. So I just need to delete those two records. There you go. So I have my domain. It's almost kind of a new domain here, and I want to add this. So, okay, great. So let's just do, I want to do www.azcontoso.com. This is the one that I want. And when I click validate, it gives me an error. And an error? Why? Oh, hey, you need to verify that you own the domain. Yeah, kind of makes sense, right? Because look, you could just go Microsoft.com, and I'll just start to get the request for Microsoft.com. Of course not. So, okay, so I need to add those two records, okay, into your DNS zone, which is a text record and a CNAME record. Let's start with a text record. So I'll just come here, record set. And by the way, this takes a while, okay, this interface, so it's a little bit slow. So just be patient, because when you click something, this just starts to refresh everything. Okay, so there you go. And I want to say this is a text record, and the value of the text record, it will be this one. Let's just add this one. So that's done. And I know I need to add a second, okay, a second one, which is just www, and that will be the value, okay? So www, and now look, this is not going to be a text record or an A record. It's going to be a CNAME record. And the CNAME record I want is to do an alias for this. So that means that, hey, if you type www.azcontoso.com, I want to forward you, okay, to that one over there, which is exactly, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. It's done. I scroll up, I click validate again, and then pum, green, we're good to go. Okay, and there you go. My domain has been added, and you can see it in here. So this is how you add a custom domain. But now, look, we're still having a kind of, yeah, I don't want to say an issue, but it could be better configured, which is we don't have HTTPS on this. So you can click add a binding. I can click import an app service certificate. And there is a certificate here. I already have this certificate here created for this domain, and I'm paying for that, etc., for my demo. So I'm good with this. But you can even get this for free. Okay, so I was just going to say SNI and add this. And by the way, if you want to get, if imagine you buy a domain, you want to have HTTPS, and you don't, okay, you can't afford to pay for a certificate. Azure today, they give you free certificates. You don't have to pay for them. Okay. In my blog, if you search, there is an article from like a year ago that talks about that and how you can get them for free and all of that. But this one here now, it is green. It's good. It's configured. And you even have this toggle here, HTTPS on. If I just put this to on, this will force all the connections into my web application to be only HTTPS. So that means if I come here and I do azcontoso.com, this is what you see. It's this application. Welcome to Act the Mountains. And if you see there on the top, okay, we are basically, okay, getting this secure. Okay, by the way, if you have questions, I'm monitoring here the questions. You can just comment on your social network on YouTube, and you can just, I can just see them here. So if you have questions, please do make them here, okay? And you can just check this here. So it's pretty awesome what you have. And look at this. If I just copy this, let me open here an in private browser, and I'll remove the S. I'll force an HTTP connection. This will be transformed. You saw what happened. It redirect me to the HTTPS. Because there is no possibility now, I'll close this, to have this to communicate with HTTP. Also, a pretty cool thing is this. Imagine you go to Visual Studio. You go to the index page, right? And I don't know, I just get in here and I'll just put here H3, okay, and some text. I just did some changes and I did this. I save the file, I go here, I click publish, and this is just building the project again, just making the differences, uploading the differences. And if we do this, okay, you will see that the differences just show up, okay, right away into production. And you're like, okay, that's great. It's basically adding the files. Okay, so there you go, it's done. And if we close this, so now if we refresh this page, you see, oh, some text. Got it? And you're like, oh, great. But let's be honest. Maybe, that's not the good idea, right? Maybe I want to create like a development environment where I test these changes. And then I look, yeah, I like that. Let me then promote that to basically to production. And that's exactly, okay, what we're talking about. That's called deployment slots, okay? And deployment slots is what? So basically deployment slots, it's like you see here, I have like developers promoting code to like the GitHub, for example. And then from that source of the code, I deployed the staging, and then we test and we see, oh yeah, that's good. Then we can swap that with production. So we validate the changes before going into production. Okay, so let's just take this here. Let's go back to my web application. And if we scroll up, we see here deployment slots under deployment. And if we click there, look, creating a slot is really easy. You just need to click here, add a slot. And hey, what is the name of the slot? Let's just call it staging. And let's click add. And when you do this, and this is creating, you can see here, okay, so this is the name of my web app. And then you have this dash staging. The staging is the name, okay, that I called here. So basically, whatever you can call whatever you want. You can, if you want to call potatoes, just call it potatoes. That's fine, as long as it makes sense to you and to your team. I'm good. I prefer to call dev staging test because it doesn't make sense to me, to my team, but also to other external people that might work with me in the future. Okay, but it creates this unique, okay, domain in here for us. And if we click on this, and if I click browse, you will see the landing page here. It's a brand new one. It gets the landing page. But if I go to Visual Studio, okay, and let me even do here, even some more changes. And look, I really wanted to test this out, etc. So if I go to this one and I click new, and I'll just say next, yeah, it's a Windows, next. So all the same thing as I did before. But now, look, I scroll here and I will open the folder. I will open this and I will open deployment slots, and I can find there, see, the staging. And if we finish this, and now this will be staging, and you can see the differences in here, okay? This is staging, so I'll publish this. So what's happening now is I'm not publishing to production, so production will still stay the same. There's no changes over there. But what I'm doing is I'm just, okay, changing this. This changes. I'm sending these changes to the staging environment, and you see here even some more changes. And you see here this is in the staging environment. But if I go to this, which is production, and I refresh, I can even do Control F5, okay, so that we're sure that cache is not an issue, etc. This is what you have there. Got it? Now we look at this. We test. Imagine those changes were not just a piece of text. They were like new features, fixing bugs and stuff like that. We test and we're like, oh, yeah, this is good. So I can go to Azure. I can go to deployment slots. And under, okay, deployment slots, I have this feature called swap. And if you say, you're just saying staging will be production. So you click swap. And by the way, there's more to talk about than just this. There's a little bit more than this. But a basic intervention could be something like this. Now this will take some time. But look, if I refresh this is still responding. Oh, and by the way, it already did it. Okay, it was pretty fast today. But you see, this is the new staging, and this is the new production. Okay, this was really fast today. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time than this. Don't get expectations. Usually demos, it takes more time. Okay, today was exactly the opposite, which was great. Okay, but you get the idea. So it's like, oh, great, like amazing. So never deploy directly into production. It's a great idea. Okay. So what more? So now I want to talk about scaling. It is, look, massively important. It is massively important to talk about scaling, right? And to understand that we need to think about that sometimes the compute that we have, it is just not enough. Okay, so we really want to have a little bit more than that. So yeah, we can have that, and we can have scale out or scale up, and there is a big difference. So scale up is vertical scaling. I will get a bigger machine, and then that will require downtime, and probably it's not something that we want to do when our application is running. But then we also have, okay, scale out. And when we're talking about scale out, that's the idea of doing horizontal scaling. And that's pretty cool because I don't have to deal with downtime. And I can have, imagine, 2 instances, then 3, then 4, then 3, because I start not to have that much load, then 2, then I get more load again, 3, 4, 5 instances within certain limits that I define. So let's do some demos with exactly this. And by the way, answering the question, can we use Visual Studio Code instead of Visual Studio? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Visual Studio Code will also be supported for this. I even, to be totally honest with you, today I prefer to use Visual Studio Code to do my daily job than Visual Studio. I only go to Visual Studio when I really need the features that Visual Studio gives me that code doesn't give me. But to do this, look, it is more than enough Visual Studio Code is awesome to do all of this. Okay. So this is done. Let's just do here scaling. So there you go. I'm back at my app service here. Okay, so this is my app service. And if I scroll down, you see that I have two options to scale. Scale up, scale out. So if I show you scale up, so you see it's kind of the same interface when I selected the app service plan, right? Is, hey, I want this machine here. So I can switch from this one here. Sorry. I can switch from this one, okay, to this size. And yeah, that's it. So this is 2 cores. The other one has 4, and so on. But yeah, and you just need to click apply, and that's it. You're done. You're good to go. But yeah, this is not a good idea, to be honest. What we prefer to do is scale out. If I have 2 machines, I get higher availabilities. I get my application being distributed across different machines and all of that. That we gain way more than just to have one super large machine. In scale out, I have 2 options. Manual scaling, which, hey, do you want 2 instances? Yeah, I want 2 instances. Just do this, press save. You will get 2 instances. There is like nothing more than you have that you have to say. Okay, so it is, yeah, whatever. Or I can say custom auto scaling. And when we say custom auto scaling, means I'm going to write rules to configure the auto scaling. Now let's think about this. Let's give you a real example. A customer, they want to have a generic rule. When they have more demand, they want to get more instances to respond to the demand that they have. And then that's the what we call the unpredictable grow. But they know, which is called a predictable grow, predictable demand. Every Friday, every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., they need to have at least 5 instances because they already predict it's every weekend happens the same thing. They need more demand because of the nature of their service. So, okay, great. That's fine. Let's first take care of the metrics, so the unpredictable growth. I'll just click here to add a rule. And what I'm going to do on this is I'm just going to say something very simple, which is if you have more than 75% on CPU load, I want to get another instance. If you have less than 35% on the CPU load, hey, I want to save money. So I want to remove 1 instance. And now, one of the things that you can put here is then you can also put here some instance limits. And what I want to say is, so this service can go up to 30. But look, imagine, we do not afford to pay that amount of money. So we really need to block this to 8. Let's imagine. I can't afford to pay more than 8 instances on this. So you're like, great, yeah, let's just do that. So let's just get in here. Let's just say, so I was saying what, 75%, and yeah, increase the count by 1 instance. Okay, great. Let's just do that. And I'll add another rule where I'm just going to do what, 35 here, but of course, so 35. But of course, this is not greater than, it's less than. And I'm not going to increase the count. I'm going to decrease the count by 1. Okay, because yeah, if you have less than 35%, I want to decrease. I want to remove 1 of the instances. And there you go. You're here. I can just say, hey, I want a minimal of 2 and a max of 8 on this, because again, we cannot afford to pay more than 8. This rule will take care, okay, of the custom, of the unpredictable rule. So unpredictable grow is taken care. What about the predictable one? Yeah, let's, on the bottom here, let's click under where it says add a scale condition. And now I can say scale to a specific instance count of, let's just say 5, repeatable specific days. It's every Friday and every Saturday, and it starts at 6. So it needs to be 1800 to the 23. Okay, so I need if you just do this, you just press save, and now I have everything set up. So what I have now is unpredictable rule. So that for the unpredictable grow, and that every Friday and every Saturday. So today at 6. And by the way, I configured this for 6, my 6. Okay, and I'm in Europe, so as you can see here, it will not start right away. And I know that we started this at 6, but it will not. I could if I just change this here to IST. Okay, if I just did that, yeah, that will just start to grab here and create a bunch of new things. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to spend that much money on my demo, but you guys get the idea, right? So it's pretty cool what I can do with this. And this was just like kind of like some examples that that I wanted to bring, and I wanted to show about this. But look, even that deployment that we did that I did from Visual Studio, even to the deployment slot and all of that. Yeah, Tiago, that's great. Let's be honest, it's pretty cool. I love it. But maybe what we want to do is something like this, using like concepts like DevOps, concepts from the continuous integration and continuous deployment, because it's not very normal, or at least it shouldn't be very normal, a developer from Visual Studio or even Visual Studio Code, okay, to be able to deploy directly into Azure. Usually you don't even have to do that. What you have to do is this. I'm the developer here, okay? It's developer 1 or 2. And I'm pushing code using Git into GitHub or Azure DevOps repos, GitLab, look, whatever you have chosen for that bit, okay? Then, when you have this in here, we can integrate this, and I can use Azure pipelines, or I can use GitHub Actions. And with one or the other, look, I can grab the things in here, and I can just then, put this to deploy my website into Azure automatically. And that's kind of the dream, let's just say, okay? That will be pretty cool. And I have a session on this, which is basically about Git integration with Azure DevOps, etc. But as you can see, we just don't have enough time today, okay, to show this bit, because I still have here a few slides to run over here, and I don't want to run over the time here. Useful services that we have. There are so many. And I had to be honest with you, very, very careful when I was just typing services in here when I was doing this, because the list was huge. But I kind of shows what I think is the main ones. Azure Storage. It's normal that applications will need to store PDF files or pictures or videos or stuff like that. That kind of storage, definitely Azure Storage will help you tons on that. Sometimes if you have global web applications, though, that data, you kind of want to propagate it around the world, and content delivery networks with Azure CDN will be a way to go. Also, Azure Functions. If you have sometimes, we have little background jobs that we need to do that will respond to events. Like, when someone upload a new file into that blob storage account over there, I want to process that file. It's a picture, and I want to create, the thumbnail, the small version of the picture. Yeah, great. Call cognitive services that will I input the picture, and it will kind of create me some tags around what he sees in the picture. He sees a house in the green area, some blue windows, and it's just going to tag some of the stuff that he sees. I can use a function to do the calling and take care of the result. Then I need maybe to put that result in a database, like SQL databases or Cosmos DB. I might want to use Redis cache to cache some of the data, to have that data more in the format that my application is going to need, things like that. I can have Azure Search to basically create a very real text search experience, like when you go to Google or to Bing and you just type and you get like results and things like that. I can then use Traffic Manager, okay, to do stuff like this. Okay, so I have here requests coming. Traffic Manager will decide if this goes to the Europe or to the United States. And I have two infrastructures deployed in each area. And I could add more. This just doesn't work with 3 only. It works with more than 3. Okay, so this kind of stuff that, yeah, we can do, in here. Look, it's massive. All the other services that we have on Azure, that what we can do with this. I will just leave you here with some links like tools and resources like Visual Studio Code, Git, Azure DevOps, so that you can read a little bit more. And this is it. So I would just like to thank everyone that was here today with me. My name is Tiago, and this is how you can build apps in Microsoft Azure. You have all my contacts. So you have my Twitter handler, you have my website, and also the last link, okay, is basically my YouTube channel. So it's just channel/Tiago Costa, basically my name and then MCT. Okay, so if you just want to also to follow me there and subscribe to the channel, that will be great. Okay, so that was it. Thank you very much, everyone.
That was an amazing session. If the viewers have any doubts, they should definitely contact you through your social media IDs, and definitely subscribe to Mr. Tiago's YouTube channel. He has got amazing content on Azure facilities. So, okay, I guess that's it. Thank you, Mr. Tiago, for taking up your time off a busy schedule for being with us here today. It was amazing to hear out your valuable insights you had for us. I am sure that everybody enjoyed listening to your session and they learned something new. Before we sign off,
it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Okay.
Yeah. We are glad to have you here. Even Sujit Patel says, thank you, sir. It was such a great workshop. Okay, then before we sign off, I would like to mention that the feedback form link will be posted. Do fill it up fast so that you are eligible to grab your Hack the Mountains participation certificate. Stay tuned with us for the next session. See you all soon. Take care until then. Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending this session.